going in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, pause. This is me absolutely losing my mind the day before launch. I apologize for how bad this video may be.
Okay, here we go. Here I am, again. It is L-1, meaning the day before launch, and I'm nervous, as always, but I'm feeling a bit better about this launch. This time I'm less nervous about the flight itself, and more about the actual computer on board the rocket. While the computer isn't going to be controlling the parachute deployment for this flight, it is more important than you think that it is on the rocket. The flight computer weighs about 80 grams including its frame, and about 110 grams if you include the battery with it. It may not sound like a lot, but it really has a lot more purpose than you think. Stability ratio is the ratio between how stable the rocket is flying backwards compared to flying forwards. So, for example, if the ratio was 1 to 2, that means the rocket would be twice as stable flying forwards as it is flying backwards. This ratio is calculated by subtracting the center of gravity from the center of pressure, and then dividing that by the diameter of the rocket. Keep in mind that all numbers need to be the same units while doing this, or else you'll get the wrong information. As a general rule of thumb, it is recommended that you use about 1.5 to 2.5 stability ratio. Now that we know what stability ratio is, let's talk about why having this flight computer on board the rocket is very important. Since the computer weighs more or less 110 grams, and the entire rocket is 1.3 kgs, that means the computer actually makes up quite a lot of its mass. As I talked about at the end of my last rocketry video, EON MK2 is about 6 centimeters shorter than EON MK1. This means that the stability ratio goes down from about 1.5 to about 1.2, which is dangerously low. But because that flight computer is now sitting in the nose cone with the camera, it brings that center of gravity up a bit, meaning the stability ratio is now about 1.4, which is still lower than the 1.5, but the forecast for tomorrow says the winds are going to be very low, and hopefully that means it's going to work. I'm much more prepared for this flight than I was for the last one, as now I know what I was to be expecting. So I guess the only thing left to do now is check over everything, make sure the computers are working, and then go fly it. I'll see you there. Okay, it's about 8 PM on L-1, and I'm all packed, really. If you can see behind me, got the flight computer ready here, EON ready behind me, and we've got the bag, which is packed with the rocket motor and some camera gear, and back inside the house, it's away from my workshop, is the cameras are all getting ready and getting charged, and I'm ready for tomorrow, so I'm excited. Let's do this. Okay, it's about 5 AM and I'm a bit sleepy, but I'm super nervous and excited for the rocket launch. You can see down behind me, EON and all the camera gear is all ready to go, so we're leaving pretty soon, and the launch is in about 6 hours. Okay. Alright. Right, so this is the ejection charge. It's a bit of gunpowder. You put it into the motor, which has already been drilled out to the delay of 8 seconds. You get this little washer. Put that flat on the bottom of the thing. And you get the gunpowder. Carefully open the vial without it going everywhere. The entire contents in. And get the red rubber cap. And put that into the top of the motor. Push that down so it's sitting flush. And that's the motor ready. We're setting up the pads now, we're pretty much done, so I'll be probably the first one to go.
3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
3, 2, 1.
It's weird. It might just be the igniter itself. Yeah.
Perfect.
Looks absolutely perfect. It's not beeping, but
No,
should be okay.
the window nearly came out.
Oh, the window's like that on the pad actually. So, oh,
Pretty hot.
it was a hot burning motor. Damn, it's still flyable though. Is that body tube still structural? Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good.
I am back here in my workshop, and as you can tell by the lack of destruction in this rocket here, EON flew perfectly. To talk about the flight, let's start from the bottom and work our way up. If you look at the bottom of EON MK2 here, you will see that it is much more charred and burnt than the bottom of EON MK1 during its flight. And this is because the motor, just by random chance, overperformed just a little bit, which meant it burnt hotter than usual and it was just more powerful in general than it should have been. But do not worry, this still means that it's still fine to fly and I still would get my certification nonetheless. These marks are purely battle scars and they have no structural damage to the rocket, so they could be still used again, these parts, if they were to. The ascent of the rocket was a little bit more unstable in Flight 1, as you can tell by this slight pitch during the initial takeoff. But overall it was still very straight and smooth. And as you can tell by this clip I'm playing right now over the top of me, the parachute only ejected only a little bit after apogee, which means it was a good deployment and it didn't zipper up the side like it did last time. The parachute also didn't inflate fully until about 3 seconds after deployment. And that was because I hadn't actually repacked the parachute until a few days before the launch, which means I didn't do it on the day. And if I did, it would have unfolded quicker, because it hadn't had set into its position as much. Now let's talk about the part of the rocket that did fail during this launch. When we did the countdown, and when we pushed the ignition button, nothing happened. And this happened a second time, and nothing happened. So eventually we replaced the igniter with a better one, and that's when EON took off for the first time. Well, EON MK2 for the first time. This is the igniter that failed, and I can't show you up close, but only a little bit of the end got burnt and none of the rest of the fuel. And it was just a dud. That happens, things happen. But I replaced the igniter and EON worked. Aside from the failed ignition, the second thing that didn't work was Neuron, the flight computer inside the rocket. Neuron, my Arduino-based flight computer, failed to detect the takeoff as it didn't beep during the initial takeoff and it wasn't beeping when we found it on the ground, which means it hadn't detected takeoff, it hadn't been writing to this SD card on the side, and that means we have no data. We don't know what happened in the flight. Next time I fly this computer, I will be sure that this does record data, because it would have worked, it was so close to working. Other than the loss of data, everything else in the flight was insanely perfect, and I am incredibly happy with it. The GoPro this time was recording at the right resolution, as last time I may or may not have set it to 1080p 30 FPS, which, a bit bad. This time it was recording at 2.7K at 120 FPS, which is a much smoother and clearer picture. Now that this flight has actually happened and it made it to the ground in one piece, my flight report is being sent in to these people in America that I mentioned in my first rocketry video called Tripoli. These people will review the report and make sure that everything complies with the rules, and hopefully, fingers crossed, in the next few weeks I should have my official level 1 certification. And now that this flight is done and I'm super happy with it, I can relax a bit more, which means I'm less stressed about rocketry. But that also means I can shift my target to my next goal, which is my level 2 certification. It's a pretty big rocket. Speaking of my level 2 rocket, next time I fly this flight computer, I will probably be trying to make a full custom circuit board that I can put all of these components on, so there's not all these wires dangling out everywhere, which will make it much neater and tidier. The rest of this video is just clips of during the launch day and everything that's happened, so I'll catch you in the next video. See ya! I was just taking the parachute off the rocket, and this is the carabiner that holds the parachute line onto the bottom of the fins, and you can see where the ejection charge has gone off compared to where the thread's been covering it. That is like charred nearly, and this whole line is all smoky and dusty. The inside of the tube has got all of that soot on the inside.
3, 2, 1.
It's still burning, holy. Yeah. Nearly, yeah, about now. All the smoke. If you like this video, then please leave a like, it helps me a lot, and if you're feeling generous, please consider subscribing. It's completely free and it means the world to me, and it will help me so much, so please hit the subscribe button.